The American Le Mans Series returns to its spiritual home at Road Atlanta for the final race of the 2001 series, the fourth Petit Le Mans 1,000-mile enduro. Well, the calendar started off with Texas, the sprint race in hot spring conditions, very different from here at Atlanta this weekend. Then the 12 hours of Sebring, big break for Le Mans before they headed to California and Sears Point. Then three in a row, Portland, Mosport and Mid-Ohio. Small break before Laguna Seca, and then a chance to prepare for nearly a month before the 1,000-mile 10-hour race at Petit Le Mans. 41 cars will start the Petit Le Mans, among them Johnny Herbert's champion Audi, much fancied. Derek Daly, the TV presenter, ex-Grand Prix and IndyCar star, chats with him before the start. With 700 miles of pre-race testing, the team are feeling fairly confident.
We're happy. It was very, very close, especially with Stefan. So, you know, we're in equal cars, so it was good that we were about the same. But I think for the race, it would be a different story, and I think hopefully we can have a strong race like we normally do.
Another much-fancied car, particularly by the local fans, will be the Paynos. The Spirit of America emblem, never more appropriate than in current troubled times. And racing here with their families around them, the team hoping for great things.
All in all, we're happy. It's a long race. To be third is not a big deal. But you know, the big thing right now is what the weather's going to do. Whether it'll stay like it is and keep drying, or the rain's going to come again. So I think it'll be a tricky start with we need to be really careful on your decision with regards to tyres.
The cars they all want to beat are the Yerst Audis that start first and second on the grid. Tom Christensen with a handy advantage over his teammate Emanuele Pirro.
For sure, this gives, as is usually, the best advantage, that it proves that we certainly have a quick car, but it's a 10-hour race, and we have mainly concentrated for the race setup, so we're very happy about both things. The car is quick also in race trim. The only thing is that the circuit is wet now, so for sure it'll be interesting in the beginning of the race what happens, but the weather forecast is it should be better.
After overnight rain, most cars left the pits on wet weather tyres, but the track now dry enough to start on slicks, and the forecast suggests a dry race, a good thing, with 41 cars on a 2.5-mile track. So Tom Christensen, the pole position man, along with teammate Dindo Capello, battling with Emanuele Pirro for this title for 2001. Behind them, the Paynos, and the rare chance for the families to be on hand with the race teams all weekend. The Works Audis lock out the front row, the privateer cars slip between the pair of red Paynoses, and between the caddies is the Dyson Riley and Scott with John Fields Lola in 10th. 675 class leader Didier de Radiguez, the GTS pole goes to last year's winner Andy Pilgrim. Ricard Rydell rounds out the top 20 in the ProDrive Ferrari. And the GT pole, that has been won by JJ Leto, the first of 3 BMWs in the top 3 in the class. Behind the safety car, they weave some heat into the tyres, ready for the start of 1,000 miles or 10 hours, whichever happens sooner. And 4 cars already on the back foot, starting the race from the pit lane less than ideal, but dramas in the final minutes before the pit lane closed have put them back there. And among them, James Weaver in Rob Dyson's Riley and Scott with its Lincoln motor. And this is the 2002 spec car that Weaver is ready to get going in. The Audis, front row of the grid for the championship contenders. The 2 Paynoses mingling with the 2 privateer cars. Row 4 is an all-caddy affair. And as they come down towards turn 12, the green flag will be waiting to start the 4th Petit Le Mans. The prototypes spinning away is John Field. As the prototypes get on the gas nice and early, John Field's Lola in the wall even before he gets to the start-finish line. And the Gulf Audi of Stefan Johansson up into 3rd ahead of David Brabham in the first of the red Paynos. So Audi's 1st, 2nd and 3rd, with Christensen jumping away from Emanuele Pirro. Pirro in the 2nd of the Yerst run cars. Then the 2 Paynoses, so one has gone backwards, one come forwards Two Cadillacs on their own. Didier de Radiguez leads in 675. The yellow Corvette leads in GTS. That is Andy Pilgrim under pressure already. So lots of drivers looking for the early moves on the first lap. It's wet offline, dry on the racing line, but plenty of damp water around, particularly on the curbs, to catch out the unwary. So through go the top half dozen, the caddies 7th and 8th in number order, 7 and 8. So team formation for the Cadillacs. Last appearance for that car, the new one should appear, start testing in January. So Christensen with Pirot right behind him, then Johansson in 3rd place, ahead of the two Panos drivers, and the champion Audi at the back of that, but they're slow out of turn 10 and up the hill. There is a yellow flag on the course, and that of course for John Field's Lola, which went heavily off right at the drop of the green flag. Well, Field's bailed out. The car looks as though it's been abandoned. Let's have a look again. Field behind the two Cadillacs, goes inside Max Angelelli. There's contact, he gets spun round, and even though he's got everything locked up, as soon as he hits that wet grass, he picks up speed and backs it into the wall, and that looks like the race is over for that car before it even starts. Heavy damage at the back end. Look again from the reverse angle, and by that stage when we pick it up, Field already sideways on the inside. The gap closed and he had nowhere to go. So yellow flags at the end of lap 1. Safety car out and the Field following them round. The two Audis once more, 1st and 2nd, then the Golf car in 3rd, then Brabham in 4th, Klaus Graf in 5th, and Johnny Herbert in 6th place. The Cadillac there of Angelelli looks to be okay, no damage it would seem. On board with Hans Stuck, he is 3rd in the GT class, in the PTG BMW GT3R. 4 of these new V8 engine cars leading the GT class, the previously dominant Porsches, now on the back foot. So ready to go again, and Christensen crawling out of turn 10, but Pirot is not very quick away, and as Christensen runs down to 12 to take up the green, the Golf car moves into 2nd place. Brabham has a look at the back of Emanuele Pirot as well. Graf right behind him, Johnny Herbert right behind Klaus Graf, looking down to the inside of turn 1. That's a brave place to go inside on cold tyres. He doesn't make the move, nor does Brabham, but the Golf Audi of Stefan Johansson now in a strong 2nd place. The privateer Audis, the Golf car, the European Le Mans champions this year, and the champion car not winning a race here in the States yet. But look at this. There is Ron Fellows, who started at the back of the field after his transmission broke at the beginning of qualifying, right in the middle of the race course on lap 2. Is that a repeat of that transmission failure? On board with Emanuele Pirot, accelerating down the long, fast backstretch and approaching the rise where the Porsche and BMWs flew, with Yannick Dalmas in 98 and Jörg Müller last year, safely through there, down the dip into turn 10A, 10B, then climbing and accelerating hard, blind over the brow, under the bridge, and all the way down into turn 12. Ron Fellows' Corvette pulled out of the way, the safety workers talking to him, still a local yellow there, but look at those threatening clouds overhead as we ride with Emanuele Pirot through turn 1, over the brow into turn 2, and then snaking downhill through 3, 4 and 5, and that's Gunnar Jeanette, the Jeanette Racing Porsche, in the wall. Heavy front end damage, and that looks like the exit. Yes, it is the exit of turn 7. Let's have a look. This is the look back, and he was on the curbs there, probably water under the tyres as he hit the gas hard, straightening it up out of 7 and heavily into the wall on the run down the hill. Well, Gunnar Jeanette, the youngest ever driver in this series when he was a teenager last year, and it looks as though he is firmly out of the race. Well, Stefan Johansson has been black flagged by the organisers. He passed Emanuele Pirot before the green flag at the last restart, and he will be forced to serve a stop-and-go penalty as they follow round behind the safety car. There you can see the red 550 Maranello, 3rd in the GTS class, behind the Corvette and the Saleen. The previously dominant Vipers, the best they can manage is 4th. Green again, as again Christensen jumps away from Pirot. Brabham 3rd, and in 4th place now Johnny Herbert. He's past Klaus Graf, the Gulf Audi, heading to the pits as the Cadillac swap position. Angelelli passes Goossens for 6th place. De Radiguez under pressure from Jordi Genet and Scott Maxwell, the top 3 in GTS. And into the pit lane has come Stefan Johansson, crawling down for his stop-and-go penalty. Comes to a halt, and he's waved away. Oh, he stalled it. Familiar problem with the Audis. Johansson struggling to fire it up again, and that's just added to the penalty for that overambitious restarting. Well, off goes the Swede. He'll be disappointed with that, but plenty of time to fight back. Don't need to be on the back foot this early in the race, though. Johansson now right at the tail of the field. The Cadillacs then. And the battle for 675, de Radiguez, Genet, Maxwell, Claudia Hürtgen in the orange and silver car there, dropping back into the clutches of the GTS battle, where Terry Borchella now leads the Corvette of Andy Pilgrim. Pilgrim won last year with the last lap pass of the Oreca Viper. Wonder if he'll have to leave it that late here. Looks as though he's keeping the battle alive. Ricard Rydell 3rd in the ProDrive Ferrari, the first appearance of a 550 Maranello in the American Le Mans series. They're looking for customers here. The response has been good. Response good too to the Celine. Porcella looking to win the championship here. He needs to complete 50 laps to score starting points, enough to put him into an unchallengeable championship lead. And now he's got Claudia Hürtgen between him and Andy Pilgrim. Pilgrim will have to exercise a little caution this early in the race. Everybody should be alert, but you can never tell. On board with the Cadillac. Oh dear, that's Mark Goossens in the dip, turn 10. Goes off across the wet grass. De Radiguez, Genet have gone by, and Scott Maxwell as well. So the top 3 in 675 pass him. Here is the GT leader, JJ Leto. Dirk Muller in 2nd place in the other Schnitzer BMW, 1st and 2nd in the class. Hanstuck 3rd in the PTG BMW. But at the moment it's the Schnitzer cars that are running away with it in GT. Klaus Graf brings the 51 Panos into the pits, just over the half-hour mark gone in the Petit Le Mans. And the car was badly damaged in first qualifying. Debris broke the brake line. He went off heavily at turn 4. It had a gearbox problem when it was rebuilt for the 2nd session. Doesn't look like it's a repeat of that. They're taking off the engine cover, not the rear end cover. That may point perhaps to an engine problem for the 51 car. That'll be a big disappointment for the Panos team, hoping for great things from their cars here. Having abandoned the new 2001 car, gone back to last year's chassis halfway through the season, they have been enjoying renewed success, but they're looking around maybe for a broken exhaust or something. Audi number 1, Tom Christensen, the comfortable race leader, pulling away from teammate Frank Bieler. Brabham's in 3rd in the 50 Panos. Graf leaving the pits. Well, that was a fairly short stop. Let's hope they have rectified whatever the problem may have been. He will be well down the order though now. In fact, James Weaver goes by him in the Dyson Riley and Scott. We know he started from the back of the field, didn't we? Panos not looking very quick, though. It looks as though Graf may be back in. And Didier de Radiguez, the 675 leader, being rocked backwards and forwards in the pits. Normally the sign of transmission woes, and that's where they're looking at the rear end of the car. And that means that Jordi Genet in the Rock VW leads the class. Dick Barber Racing's Porsche is in, so 2 of his 3 cars are in, and Klaus Graf goes back behind the wall. Not a good start to the race for Dick Barber Racing or for the Panos team either. And Tom Christensen out of the race, out of the Audi, out of the lead, and out of the championship. The car off in the wall. That's the exit to turn 1. Christensen walking away, seems to be okay. But look, a major shunt to remove the body from the Audi. These things are built out of, it seems, solid metal. They really are extremely robust. You have to go off very hard indeed to damage one badly. But Christensen out of the race. Well, he has radioed into the team saying that the car seemed to bottom out mid-corner and pitch him into the wall, and they're suspecting maybe a puncture is what caused the demise of the race leader. Whatever, he and teammate Dindo Capello out of the championship chase. Their battle with teammate Emanuele Pirro is over.
We knew already that it was very tough for us to reach the top, but we had to put some car in between Emanuele and us. And in that moment when the accident happened, we were first and it was fourth. Okay, it was just the beginning of the race, but that was our strategy. And for us, we had to try hard from the beginning to the end to keep some car in between. And then it happened in the last 2 months, in the last 6 races, I don't know what's happened really, because we got so much bad luck that I cannot believe it. We won everything till Sears Point, and from Sears Point to now, we had to stop 3 times in 5 races. That's unbelievable.
Well, David Brabham now leads the race as they're under full course yellow, and the Panos out front for the first time in this event. And there is Marino Franchitti, driving a Ferrari 360 Modena, also making its first appearance in North America. Recently won the GT class in the British GT Championship. He's out at turn 6 as in comes the damaged Audi on the back of a truck, and that is a big mess. Well, the team will look at the data and try and figure out what happened, but it's all too late now to know the truth. Into the pits under yellow comes Johnny Herbert, the champion car coming in its new red, white and blue livery. Emanuele Pirro topping himself up with fluids as the car gets full service. No tyres though, it seems, and Pirro now confident that he can take this driver's crown for 2001. Well, he may not win this race, but he may not need to now. I'm sure, however, the Eurosport team will want to finish the year on a high. And as has been their practice, the champion team going for front tyres on the Audi R8. The red, white and blue colour, their normal reflective paint scheme being replaced by the red, white and blue stars and stripes effect in memory of those who so tragically were killed on September the 11th. And Herbert stalls the Audi. Looks like this year's cars have solved the problem, but the customer cars still with that stalling problem. Right behind the two, Alex Job McKenna Racing Porsches come out. Oh, and look alongside them, the BMW. And that's the 42 car. That's Fredrik Ekblom just holding on to the GT class lead. So driver changes all round in the GT BMWs, but not in the Porsches. That's why they have closed up. Look at the BMW pull away up the hill there. Plenty of torque and horsepower in that V8. The Corvette of Andy Pilgrim comes back out, and look, 2 or 3 cars further back, there is Terry Borchella's Celine. So some slick pit work by the GM crew has gained them back the GTS class lead in the pits under yellows. Manuel Collard taking over the number 7 Cadillac from Mark Goossens, engine cover coming off for some reason. And oh, a fire on board, fire in the hold. That's why they were taking the engine cover off. Fire while they were refueling, the team quickly dealing with it, but Collard bailing out as you might expect sitting in a fireball. And they were just taking the engine cover off to check that everything was okay. They persuaded him it is safe to go. Green flag, an hour into the race, they go racing again. And out front, Claudia Hurtgen making a pass for the lead on Chris McMurray. The 2 675 cars have not stopped yet for fuel. They are first and second, but realistically, of course, Pirro and Herbert here will close and pass them very quickly. Pirro right behind Chris McMurray in his Pilbeam with its Nissan V6 engine. Ooh, come on, Emanuele, don't take silly risks this early on. There's another 900 and odd miles to go. Blast past McMurray, Johnny Herbert right with him, on board with Emanuele Pirro, and a very slow Viper of Dino Steiner, way back after a long pit stop. Gets past him, but he's watching the mirrors, and look in his mirrors, you can see the headlamps there of Johnny Herbert, and Herbert of course on fresh front tyres, whereas Pirro's have done an entire hour already. And the speed of the Audis, the 900 prototype breezing by Claudia Hurtgen's 675 car. The Lola of Hurtgen comprehensively passed, and off goes Dino Steiner. That's at turn 7. 6 and 7, the slowest turns on the racetrack, and he goes off. Well, on the grass and recovering the engine. Meanwhile, the leaders continue to battle. Pirro with Herbert in second place, Johansson's Audi in third, but some way further back at the moment, caught in the queue of traffic. Johnny Herbert really taking the race to Emanuele Pirro. The champion team from Pompano Beach in Florida would just love to put one over on the factory Eurst cars here if they could. Pirro doesn't need to win, as we've said, to take the championship, but he'll certainly want to hit a fine streak of form in the second half of this year, as Emanuele Pirro with his teammate Frank Biela. And Tom Christensen and Dindo Capello, the dominant force early on in the season, seem just to have run, as Capello said, into a string of bad luck and misfortune. Well, Herbert in the year-old customer car, really taking the battle to the latest factory Audi. And he's got an answer to everything that Pirro does. Not quite close enough to make a move, but traffic will always be a factor in this race. 41 cars into 2.5 miles of narrow, twisting, climbing and diving tarmac. Makes for a busy racetrack wherever you are. Just coming over the crest, you can see the Johansson Audi in third place. So he's 4 or 5 seconds back from this lead battle, but still very much in contact visually on the longer parts of the track with the Eurst and champion cars. Over the bridge and through turn 12 they come, streaming through a high speed, passing Chris Bingham's Celine. He's been into the pits with a misfire. And Herbert, whoa, looking at the inside of turn 1. Yes, he is. Came across very sharply across Bingham's nose to line himself up for that one. And Johnny will now start to actively hunt for new ways past Emanuele Pirro. Dick Barber Porsche is back out from the pits, holds up Pirro a little, holds up Herbert a lot though. Pirro makes the break for himself in traffic between 3 and 4. But look how fast Johnny closes that gap back again. You really sense the champion car would be quicker could he get past. 6 and then down to 7, slippery, off camber, bumpy, sliding out wide, not too wide, and then pouring on the power, downhill and accelerating past 8 through the flat out turn 9. Oh, and down at 10, there's a spinner. That is the Mike Colucci Racing Callaway. Caught Wagner's just taking it over under the last yellows. He spun and he manages to remove the car from the curbs before the leaders arrive. Well, that's good news for Pirro. And for Herbert as well. He may have been able to close, but of course would not have been able to pass. I'm sure there was a yellow flag there. Through 12, flat out down the straight, and behind them, look at this battle going on in GTS class. Andy Pilgrim in the 4 Corvette, again with that Stars and Stripes motif, and united we stand on the back wing. Right behind him, Terry Borchella. And Borchella in Franz Conrad's Celine, determined to pass. He's looking for a way right now. And right in front of him is that little Pilbeam Nissan. He goes inside of turn 1. And Pilgrim, looking over, knows that it's a done deal. He's got no way to fight that. Gives him racing room. And the Celine is back in front for the second time in this ding-dong GTS battle. Well, let's have a look here. Exiting 7. That is Johnny Herbert, and right behind him David Brabham. Herbert with a wheel in the dirt, spins up. Brabham gets inside him and is into second, and look at this in traffic behind the Celine. My goodness, well, Pirro squeezed through, taking a third of a chance, but still Brabham now fired up and up into second place. So Pirro leads, Brabham second. David Brabham absolutely flying. Fastest man on course at the moment in the Panos number 50 car, and quicker than the Works Audis. Of course, Panos suffering a dreadful turn of fortunes this year at the beginning of the year with their new low-line car. After Le Mans, they reverted to last year's chassis, and it was as if they'd never been away, or at the back of the prototype class anyway. Back on form, and Brabham clearly desperate to win the season on a high here at home at Road Atlanta. One hour and 20 minutes into the 4th Petit Le Mans, the final race in the American Le Mans Series for 2001. The lead battle, a 3-way scrap. Emanuele Pirro in the number 2 Eurst Audi leads David Brabham in the 50 Panos. Johnny Herbert in the 38 car, the champion Audi in 3rd place. And Pirro in traffic, but who's that off the circuit? Brabham on the left-hand side of picture. David Brabham in 2nd place has gone off, and it must have been a clash with Dino Steiner's Viper. The car over there in the wall on the right-hand side, and Brabham with broken right suspension back on track. but the steaming wreckage of the Viper, it looks as though that will go no further. The Brookspeed car is out. Dino Steiner bailing out of the car. Looks as though he is uninjured, opening the door as the marshals go and attend to him. That's a fairly severe frontal impact with the wall. Well, Brabham, rear end collision. Look, the rear wing flapping about, and that right rear wheel really looking in danger of parting company with the car. He still has an engine and transmission though, and brakes clearly, and the determination to fight this car back to the pits to see what the crew can do. Well, let's have a look into turn one. Here's Brabham. There goes the race leader around the outside of the Viper. Brabham, oh, taking a tighter line, trying to cut in tight behind Pirot, and I think just misjudged the length of the two cars. Going past a Viper, it is an awfully long car. Let's have a look again from the reverse angle. Well, the collision happens before we get to the brow at turn two, but Brabham goes off on the left of picture and on the right of shot. There goes Steiner into the wall. Well, there is Klaus Graf's teammate, Christoph Tinso, not getting a chance to drive this weekend. That car's out already. I wonder if Magnussen will be able to get behind the wheel of this car. Well, Brabham doing a sterling job, trying to come back as quickly as he can to limit the time damage, but as slowly as he dare to stop what's left of the car falling apart. And again, another look here. Pirot leading Brabham around the outside of the Viper. Yeah, I have to say, I think that looks as though Brabs just misjudged it going down past that Viper. Well, lots of debris already on the racetrack. Brabham adding to it. There is Magnussen watching with the crew as Chris Gorn, the chief engineer, stalks in through the back of the pits. They'll be looking at the car on the monitors, trying to figure out what's broken and having parts ready. Well, basically the entire right corner, the under tray and the rear wing will need to be replaced, and who knows what else once they start stripping parts away. As with any damage, the more you look, the worse it gets. Well, Brabham back behind the wall. Let's take a look again. The team will rebuild the car, and that'll be a big disappointment for Panos and particularly for David Brabham.
Yeah, I was having a good race, and the car was running real strong. And it all got a bit tight in there. I don't think the back marker saw me and just moved over enough just to hit me. And, you know, I was coming through at quite a speed. But it's just unfortunate, one of those things.
One of those things for Corvette as well. Ron Fellow's car disqualified. A crew member worked on it out on the race course. So now Corvette down to just the 4 car. That's Andy Pilgrim leading in GTS again from Terry Borchella. What a seesaw battle. Pilgrim just holding on. Borchella once more all over the back of the Corvette. Oh, and there is Johansson off at turn 10. This is the corner they call the dip. If you want to know why it's called the dip, well, there's the hill down there. But in fact, the racetrack used to be lower before the circuit was rebuilt. It used to be at the level of the tunnel underneath the track now, through which all the team transporters go. So some 35 feet lower than the current track surface. And there is our 675 class leader, Jordi Janay, stopped trackside. And that hands the lead to Milka Duno in Dick Barber Racing's Reynard Judd. Jordi Janay's Rock VW, stationary. And looks as though it's smoking gently. They're rolling it backwards. And Janay has been on the radio to the team saying he thinks he has an engine problem. Well, the Lehman-built VW-based 2-litre turbo engine, normally one of the strong suits of that car. Somebody has left a nose. It looks like a prototype. It is a prototype. It's Emmanuel Collard's number 7 Cadillac, looking, well, even less handsome at the front than it normally does. That won't be helping him much either. Bodywork very important to cut down drag from those big rolling drag factor tyres, and also to tidy up the front end on board. Oh, this is turn 12. This is very quick indeed. Oh, right behind his teammate. I bet he soiled his underwear in that moment there. And here is Jan Magnussen in the pits. Well, 40 minutes of hard work by the 50 Panos crew in the garage behind the wall, and Magnussen ready to go as we ride on board with GT leader JJ Leto. Terry Borchella ahead. There goes Stefan Johansson in the Gulf Audi. Johansson recovering from that spin, of course. And that was Frank Bieler Biela in second place, and here is why. On board, through 11, under the bridge, over the brow, in traffic. Biela spins it down the hill. Did he touch anything? Do you know, I don't think he did. Wow, so Stefan Johansson's Gulf Audi now leads overall for the first time. Frank Biela in second place. And this is the first time now that the Johansson car has had the lead of this race. And they, like the champion guys, would love to win here, put one over on Joest and show that winning in Europe isn't all that they're about. They certainly have shown speed and determination. His co-driver, of course, Patrick Lemary, who is the BAR Formula One test driver. So Biela and Pirot equally matched with Johansson in his team. And here is Claudia Hertgen's teammate Steve Knight spinning out of 7. Again, an incident we've seen before. And the GT lead changing. JJ Leto in the 42 car, taking the lead away there from the 43 sister car. That's Dirk Muller. Dirk Muller sharing with JJ's normal partner Jörg Muller in an all-Muller lineup. Don't know why. One of the Schnitzer deals there. And JJ with Fredrik Ekblom, the Finn and the Swede in that car. And here is JJ, looking cool, calm and collected. And if you've got €500,000, you could buy one of these road car versions next February, according to BMW. Of course, it's irrelevant to me. I don't have €500,000. Down through turn 2, 3, and climbing back up through 4 go the GT leaders. While into 12 comes our GTS leader, Kelly Collins, now at the wheel of the 4 Corvette. Franz Conrad has taken over from Terry Borchella in the Conrad Celine, and that has dropped a little bit back. Another smart turnaround in the pits by the GM crew, and a BMW off track. Who is that? Well, it's 42. It's the GT leader, JJ Leto. Well, he still looks cool, calm and collected as he recovers from that one. Through go the race leaders. But he's going very slowly in the car, leaning over to the right rear. I'm sure I heard the noise of a puncture there. There is a puncture on the right rear. JJ Leto has picked up a flat, and he will be again trying to judge how fast and then how slow he can go to get it safely back to the pits. And past him goes Franz Conrad, as James Weaver is in the pits. And Weaver in for damaged steering, according to the team. JJ Leto with a damaged rear end. Oh, and as we replay it on board with Leto, as he was spun out of turn 1, did you see Weaver's, Riley and Scott go through there? I did. So Leto taking the opportunity to hand over to Ekblom as they fuel the car and take on tyres, and there a clash between the two in turn 1. With James Weaver in the Riley and Scott Lincoln and JJ Leto on the outside in the BMW. On board again, and look at it. Leto being passed by the fast-running Audi. Right behind was Weaver, and Leto, it seems, shut the door on him. So Fredrik Ekblom now on board. They've lost the GT lead to their teammates. They will try and fight back. But it's been a busy opening session here. Race leader Stefan Johansson, second place Frank Biela, 2 hours and 45 minutes into the race, a race already packed with drama and with nearly 7 hours remaining before the clocks run down to 10 p.m. So, oh my goodness me, narrow squeeze through traffic there by Stefan Johansson. 2 wheels bouncing up the curb, loses speed. Frank Biela comes by him. Biela with the run down the straight. This is to turn 6, around the outside into 6 and 7 goes Biela. Wow, that's a ballsy move. There's no room for error there, and he knows it. Yeah, look at that big wave of thanks to Stefan Johansson to say, thank you so much for not taking me off there by slamming the door. On board with Fredrik Ekblom on the pit straight and into turn 1. This is quick stuff, starting to climb up the hill now, using all the torque of the BMW 4-litre V8 to pull it over through 2, blind into 3, then pouring on the power down the hill through 4 and 5, and then climbing up to turn 6 again. And here in the dusk is Hugh Plum in the cycle Porsche, the 52 car. Wow! Rick Fairbanks just missing the spinning Porsche. Flat out up the hill here. Through goes the Gulf Audi. Ooh dear, and he's right in the middle of the track. He's stalled it as well. He's trying desperately to get out of the way. more drama as dusk approaches. For 7 hours of Petit Le Mans, the fourth running of this 1,000-mile enduro, the factory Audis have been battling with the privateer cars and the Panos of David Brabham and Jan Magnussen. Frank Biela leads behind the safety car in a full course yellow period, and further back in the queue, the second place Gulf Audi Stefan Johansson. Here's Max Angelelli in the Cadillac, both caddies still running. They're some laps down on the leaders, relaxing behind the safety car. The late afternoon sun, the sun just about to set, glinting off the visor and the bodywork, and that will produce more problems for the drivers. Well, recovering from their early dramas, this is Jan Magnussen in the factory Panos, the much delayed car, often the fastest on the racetrack. And as we get back to green flag racing here between the champion Audi of Andy Wallace and the Gulf Audi, Magnussen making up places. The two Audis are several laps ahead of him and in fact of the Cadillac that's just in front in this little prototype battle as they weave their way through the GT class Porsches and BMWs, but all four of them running at very similar speed into the night time. And Magnussen and Brabham, after that accident that put them out, really flying. Patrick Lemary at the helm of the Gulf Audi at the moment on the tail of this queue. But Magnussen shaping up Andy Wallace. He's looking for a pass down into 10 maybe. Well, Wallace gets past the Alex Job Racing Porsche, and so does Magnussen. Wallace sliding on the exit. And Magnussen down into 12, right behind the champion car. Like teammate David Brabham, Jan is such a ballsy racer. Just takes every opportunity to go as quickly as he possibly can. Neither of them lack anything in skill or bravery, that's for sure. Andy Wallace and Johnny Herbert, another really well-matched crew in that champion car. They may not have the experience that the Eurosport team have in running these Audis, but in the second half of the season they have really come on strong with this car. And the photographer's flashbulbs will be picking up that distinctive Dayglow red, white and blue stars and stripes livery that's been freshly applied to the car in the wake of the terrorist atrocities at the Twin Trade Towers and at the Pentagon at the beginning of September. Well, Magnussen with Lemary behind him, with Wallace in front of him, and spearheading the charge through the traffic is the Cadillac. Past one of the Schnitzer BMWs. And they're tough cars to pass, lacking very little in top speed and with great brakes. Well, jaded faces among the pit crews, and in the closing stages, particularly as they get into the darkness, for crews and drivers, concentration absolutely critical if they're to avoid costly errors. Nightfall often seems to be, like dawn in 24-hour races, the most dangerous time. Magnussen squeezes past Wallace, and Lemary lining up to do much the same. Now Magnussen around the outside, yes he is, safely, of the 7 Cadillac. The Emmanuel Collard driven car, delayed as we saw with a number of dramas, bodywork flying off, engine trying to set light to itself during the pit stops and so on. And the Panos still bearing the scars of its back into the wall earlier in the race, but these two privateer Audis on the same lap as the Eurosport car that leads, and a spinner, that's the 32 car. Doc Lohman right in the middle of the track, and as he's trying to refire the car, look at the flames from the exhaust. That's just pure unburnt fuel being churned out through the red hot exhaust system, and finally he gets it into gear. That's the run up to turn 6, so that was a big lose as well up there. Whoops, just manages to make it through. In the pits is the Conrad Celine, tyres and fuel. Terry Borchella has taken over from Franz Conrad. No, he hasn't. Conrad's still in the car. And the crew have earned themselves a stack of penalties with their pit work. Over a minute for infringements on the last 2 pit stops. And of course that undoes any good work that the drivers can manage out on the racetrack. Things like not taking the fire bottle over the pit wall and not wearing gloves. Here is Fredrik Ekblom, damaged spoiler on the 42 BMW. They'll be called into the pits to have that rectified. And again, the 42 car will suffer another delay. That possibly is a legacy of JJ Lehto's grass tracking. And the Conrad Celine slowing on track as it's passed by Magnussen's Panos. And going very slowly indeed. The Champion and Golf cars coming by it at speed, giving you the contrast there if any were needed. Night approaching, and it seems that with the drop in temperatures is coming a little bit of frailty rather than a little less frailty, which we often expect. Oh, and Andy Wallace in trouble. The car way down on the left-hand side, right front corner is up in the air. He's lost a wheel. Yes, he has. Buckled and damaged the wheel over there on the exit of turn 1. Wow, not much of a place to lose it. Could have been worse. Could have been turn 12, the last corner. But it looks as though it's come off with the brake hub attached. Now, they are fast release. They're not supposed to release unless you actually want them to come off, though, the brake hubs. Whatever, Wallace three-wheeling his wagon back to the pits. And that will be a long, long and slow-seeming journey. But he must take care of what's left on the car, not do any further damage that will delay them any longer. Well, they were in second place. And now, after 7 hours of racing, that has gone by the... Oh, my goodness. And look at the brake lights flash on there as Patrick Lemary sees the wheel part company with the car in front of him. It hit the wall at speed and flew, luckily, back towards the racetrack and not over towards any spectators. Well, Andy Wallace brings in the car, and yes, look, the brake rotor at the back has gone. Johnny Herbert will get in and go, yeah, cheers, mate. You could have brought it back in one piece. Well, actually, it looks a little as though the wheel centre may have sheared out. Well, here is the Conrad Celine back on track. And long, long ago, Terry Borchella tied up the GTS class title in the 2001 championship. He only needed to do 50 laps from the start of the race, and he did start the race. And he now is the 2001 champion. But the GTS win here looks as though it will not go his way. Darkness falling, Emanuele Pirro still leading the race. What more dramas does this 4th running of the Petit Le Mans Enduro Classic have for us? Well, through the slow turns 6 and 7, Pirro's car looks not to have missed a beat. But, well, everybody else in the field, pretty much bar none, will be able to reassure him that there are always potential dramas around every corner here. And there is another one. Joe Policastro, who shares the car with his son, spinning off there. And that's a pretty quick place to come across a slow back marker as well. Borchella's Celine negotiates him quite happily. And Policastro, slightly chastened, heads on. Scott Maxwell, the 675 leader, shares this car with fellow Canadian John Graham and Venezuelan driver Milka Duno. And the three of them comfortably leading the 675 class in Dick Barber Racing's second string Lola Judd. Normally the Didier de Radiguez headed team would have been expected to be the quicker, but they went out way before the end of the first hour even, leaving their teammates in a commanding position. And dramas now for Andy Pilgrim, Kelly Collins and Frank Frion, the 4 Corvette in the pits. The crew changing the brakes, but at 7.5 hours into the race, they do have a couple of laps in hand over their next challenger in GTS, the Conrad Celine. So taking the option, better safe than sorry. Better to spend time in the pits than risk ending the race in the wall. So darkness really upon the Atlanta circuit now. Road Atlanta, north of the capital of the state of Georgia. And into the pits also for service has come Stefan Johansson. Tyre marks on the side of the car in several places, showing just what a rumbustious race it has been. Johansson in second place and still fighting a battle with Emanuele Pirro and Frank Bieler in the number 2 Audi. Of course, the Three-wheeling champion car has dropped back down into third, but darkness and the cool of the evening haven't deterred either the drivers or the fans. The pace on the racetrack just as hot as at the start, but with slightly fewer incidents, which is a little bizarre. GTS leader, motors on serenely. And it's been a good race for last year's winner, Andy Pilgrim. They have kept themselves out of trouble, as have the crew of the number 2 Audi. 1 lap to go, the white flag lap, with some 9 hours and 40 minutes of racing gone. On to the last lap they go. Johnny Herbert with Andy Wallace will take a podium finish with the champion Audi. Ahead of them, the Johansson privateer car in second place, and the Eurosport Audi, the works car, which will motor on to victory through the darkness. Well, it's been a great race from the Audis, no question about it. And although Capello and Christensen's car was in the wall and out of the race in the first hour, the number 2 car has rarely missed a beat. And it'll be a very welcome victory for Frank Biela and Emanuele Pirro, who will join the team on the pit wall and celebrate the fact that he, and because of the vagaries of the scoring system, he alone is the 2001 American Le Mans Series LMP champion and the overall series champion. So Biela and Pirro win for Audi. A very convincing victory indeed. Their rivals had problems, had accidents, but most of all, the number 2 car avoided them, and that is the secret of winning in endurance racing. Frank Biela salutes the crowd as the fireworks go off over the Georgia woods. And Biela and Pirro celebrating a high end to the year with the factory Joest run team. Reinhold Joest's men have won pretty much everything they set their mind to this season. And the GTS class, like at Daytona, like at Le Mans, going to the factory Corvettes. And Andy Pilgrim winning for a second year as Emanuele Pirro wells up with emotion. The championship is finally his. The 675 class, Milka Duno, the Venezuelan lady, brings Dick Barber Racing's car across the line to win the category comfortably. What a way for her to finish her season. And for Jörg Müller, he failed to win here the last 2 years. This time he's second as well in the GT class behind Hans-Stuck Borisset and Bill Aublin's PTG BMW. But Jörg Müller wins the Drivers' Championship, and perhaps the greater goal that has been. So the GTS class going to the Corvette, the GT class going to the BMWs, but the overall victory going to the number 2 Audi of Biela and Pirro, and 675 going to Milka Duno, John Graham and Scott Maxwell. Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich, the motorsport chief of Audi, gets a ride in with winning driver Frank Biela to victory circle. And because of the way the championship is scored, the Audi drivers are first to 4th instead of joint first and joint 3rd. Hey, go figure, I don't make the rules up. Pirro is the champion though. And the Joest drivers joined on the podium by the champion pair in 3rd place and the Gulf pair in 2nd.
It has been really, really good because I came here trying to win the championship, not trying to win the race, and of course winning the race besides the championship is fantastic. It's a 10-hour race, it's very, very long. A lot of things are going on in this distance, and I'm very, very happy.
Also delighted, although he didn't fare well here, Didier de Radiguez is the drivers' champion in the 675 class, ahead of teammates Milka Duno and John Graham. So the Dick Barber Racing drivers 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Terry Borchella, the GTS champion. Jörg Müller, the winner in the GT championship, despite not winning here at Petit Le Mans.
I'm very happy that we did it. The only thing which is not that good is that I won it alone, because I shared a car with JJ Lechter the whole year. And to me, we are champions. We're both the champions. You know, we both had the chance to win it here, and it's, it shouldn't be just one driver really.
Well, what a great event the 4th Petit Le Mans was. 1,000 miles of incident, accident, excitement and drama from the first lap to the last. A great race.